Guys, we have two very special guests here on the Morning Buzz, WMSC 90.3 Upper Montclair. We have Julia Egan, Gabby Taylor, two producers of Focus. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Hi, good morning.
How you guys doing? Are you used to these normal, very early start times? Was it rough getting up? No.
I'm not used to this. I was dying about 10 minutes ago, but I'm good now. I'm
That's
up.
fair.
We're happy to be here.
Cool. Jumping right into things. For those who aren't aware, could you tell us what exactly Focus is?
So yeah, Focus is really a collaboration between all of the student media organizations at Montclair State University in the School of Communication. Really what the show is this semester is we're focusing on disruption. So it's kind of, Julia can probably talk a little bit about last semester's show, that this is kind of like the second part of. So
last semester we focused on how the pandemic affected us, and this semester it's how we're moving forward. So we're not focused on what happened, but what we're doing to kind of deal with everything that has happened since then in the future and how it's affecting us in the long term.
Yeah, and we have like a bunch of different segments, like live things going on that day. And we just have a lot that we're excited to do. And like last semester's production won a Cable Fax Award. And like this semester, we're still shooting for the stars.
So you guys brought up disruptions as this new this semester's show. What are some pieces that you've seen from different students that you are going to like from this show?
So one package we have is actually about athletes and mental health and how they've been dealing with mental health issues, and that's become a big thing. So that's one of the packages that I'm excited for.
Yeah,
and I'm really excited for. There's a package that we've kind of called "How to Stay Happy," but it's sort of turned into like a passions feature story. We've interviewed like a gymnast, we've interviewed a musician, a filmmaker, just kind of about how they've kept their sanity through everything. And really it goes back to those passions. So I'm really excited about that piece.
Oh, both sound really cool. And I'm wondering, as producers, on my end, I know what goes into making a radio show, but I could not tell you what it's like making a production like Focus. So could you guys, describe the process of making Focus for us?
Yeah, you want to take this one, Julia, or you want me to start off?
Take this one. So I feel like the beginning is just a lot of planning. It's a lot of reaching out to people and being like, okay, we need people to produce this package. We need people to produce this roundtable. We need guest bookers to find these interviews. So a lot of it is just calling people, emailing people, making sure that like everything that we need is done. Essentially, we picked what the packages would be, like what they would be about, who would produce them, and yeah. Gabby, you want to continue?
It's just so much pre-production, so much planning to really make this one day really successful. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of collaboration with different students, different organizations. It's a lot of kind of expecting the unexpected and kind of changing our plans when we need to, because that happens all the time. Like you think that something's going to work out, and then you get there to actually block it and it just doesn't work at all, and you have to change everything that you're doing. So yeah, it's just really being flexible and like planning, but then also understanding that, like Professor Gantz says, no plan survives contact with reality.
Yeah. So the School of Communication, especially the journalism major, is such a broad field. We've seen so many, like Focus, we saw WSC, we talked Montclair. I also know that there's a class called News Lab, and I've actually taken it for a little bit. What do you guys do at Focus that is a little bit different from News Lab?
So I think the main thing is that News Lab is putting out a weekly show as a class. That's, I think they have about 30 content producers in the class. So it's like every single week, you're not only thinking about the show that's coming up next, you're thinking about the show that comes after that show, because you have to be looking ahead. Well, with Focus, which is really cool, is we're kind of able to take that model of like putting out a show, making sure we have all of our bases covered, like the writing is good, the stories are good, but we get to take that and put it on like a bigger, more polished scale, where we're able to say, hey, like we know that we want like we know that we can do all this stuff in an hour, and we have the time to plan it. It's not like, you know, you're kind of running. It's like, you know, very run and gun in News Lab. Sometimes when things get really started, you kind of have to just keep going and like, you know, just kind of like keep going with it and keep producing content. But with Focus, we're doing the same thing. Like we're producing content, but we're only really focused on the main event. We're not really, you know, we don't have all of that compound production that we have to worry about, if that makes sense.
We could spend more time on the packages. With News Lab, it was like, okay, you have to get these 5 packages done for a 15-minute episode in a week. And now it's like, oh, we have 3 months to plan for this big hour-long show. So we could put more into writing the script and making the edits. So we could just make everything, like Gabby said, a lot more polished.
Yeah, and another big difference as well is that Focus isn't a class, you know, it's very much like a volunteer thing. So everyone that is a part of Focus really wants to be there, and it's a really refreshing thing to be a part of.
That's really cool. It's a similar thing here on the Morning Buzz, is that this obviously is not a class. If it was, that would be crazy. But everyone's here because they either enjoy it or it's something fun that they want to do. So it's cool to see that that's what's going on with Focus. Interestingly enough, you guys are a producer and co-producer. How did you guys get into these roles? Was there like a work your way up kind of deal? How did that work out for you?
Well, for me, I would produce the Disruption Kickoff last semester. So we got to this semester, Professor Efron asked me if I wanted to do it again. So I said yes.
Yeah, and for me, I kind of a bit of a longer story. I transferred to Montclair State from a community college. It was like in the middle of the pandemic. I didn't know anyone really, but first semester of News Lab, they liked me. So they, you know, brought me onto the senior team. And then, you know, from that point forward, I've just been growing a little bit closer to the leadership team, like different professors and stuff like that. And yeah, I knew that I had been senior producing News Lab for 2 semesters. And it was a little bit too much. I was like, I need to take my last semester to focus on myself a little bit. And then I just talked to Professor Efron, like Julia, and I was like, hey, I really, really am interested in doing this project. Like, this is the last thing that, you know, I'm going to do at Montclair. Like, let's do it.
Yeah. And you talked a little about Professor Efron, also Professor Gant, who's a very big in the Montclair State journalism major. One of his quotes that has always run with me is the proper pre-production prevents poor performance. Can you speak a little bit to that? Because you talked about the planning that goes into Focus. So how much has that quote really rang into your ears when you've been doing this?
The whole time. We've been doing pre-production since probably the day we got back from winter break. Like it's a lot of pre-production for a 1-hour project. And even still we get to the date and we're like, oh, we could have done this and we could have done this and we still could have done this. It's like, it's never ending, the pre-production that can be done.
Yeah. And one more question I also want to ask is, there's probably an hour-long piece requires so many projects. And so that means also some projects might have to hit the cutting room floor. Do you actually have to like work around like which projects you want to put in the piece? And there's some pieces that maybe you want to leave on the cutting room floor?
I mean, yeah, there are definitely things that we we take other people's pitches that want to go into the show. But we definitely kind of make sure that we manage expectations, and we tell people, you know, like, this may or may not go in the show, you know, like we love the idea, like, you know,
Like if you
do
want
it
to
and
turn
we'll
it
see
into a
what
package,
happens.
go for it. Yeah, but we're like, there's no guarantee it's going in, because pretty much beforehand, when like before we decide and ask people to produce packages, we kind of have set what we need and like for the amount of time we have allotted for the show. So usually it's like, hey, we need 5 more minutes. A couple people are going to come and pitch to us so we can get one more package. Then we choose one from there. But most of the time, we're not really going to be like, yeah, just have everyone produce their packages. We'll have a ton of them in a big line and then just start cutting them and picking which ones we want from there.
Yeah, we definitely, that's a part of the pre-production process. Is like, we kind of want to make sure that we know what we want, but then, you know, things of course get cut.
You know, that's the nature of it. Things are definitely going to get cut at some point. It is what it is, but you know, maybe they can live somewhere else on YouTube, you know, put it up somewhere. So Julia, you mentioned that you were actually part of Focus last semester as well. Could you describe some of the differences you think you have seen with the team and the product so far?
Yeah, so last semester, I think we had a little bit less time to produce it. And last semester, it was my first time producing something like this. So I was just learning. I was learning a lot of stuff. I was learning as I go. Whereas this semester, I knew a lot of, okay, this doesn't work, this does work. So we're able to kind of get into it faster and be like, okay, I've tried this last semester and I know it doesn't work at all. And let's modify it. But the main difference I would say between the kickoff and moving forward is that the kickoff was live. This semester, it is not going to be live. We're going to edit it together.
Nice. Now, Gabby, you said that you were part of News Lab, and this is your first time really doing Focus. Did News Lab prepare you for your role as producer here for Focus?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I think that News Lab is the perfect training ground for just like anyone that wants to go into producing at any level. But really, just the framework is set up so well that I feel really confident, you know, working with Julia and producing this hour-long show. Like it feels exciting. It doesn't feel like I'm unprepared. Like I feel super prepared because of News Lab and because of those experiences.
And now that this is your last semester at Montclair State and you've sort of done all you've wanted to do, what do you see for the Focus program going forward after you graduate?
That's a good question. Honestly, like I'm really excited to just see how it evolves. I think that every semester it's been different.
It's bigger, yeah. Every semester it gets a little bigger.
Exactly. It gets a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like last semester, I think there were 3 locations we were shooting out of. Now there's 4. So it's like, you know, just a little bit more complicated, a little bit more pre-production. I don't know. I'm really just excited to see it flourish and to see what new ideas get thrown out into the Focus world. Because I definitely feel like you know, like this is the first Focus production that I've been producing, but I was part of the one last semester. So like, I'm really just excited to see how it just evolves and students take ownership of it in the future.
Awesome. Well, one final question before we let you guys go and enjoy your days, I guess. Where can students watch Focus this year?
So it'll be on a bunch of different places. So it'll be on the Montclair News Lab YouTube. It'll be on Hawk Plus, which is Montclair's new streaming service. That'll be, I don't know if it launched yet. Gabby, do you know if it launched yet?
I think the soft launch is coming a little bit later this month. But our show should also be streamed on there on May 5th.
Yeah.
Should be the day. It's also going to be able to be watched on cable access channels in New Jersey.
It'll be posted on News Lab Instagram.
All the socials and local channel 34 in Montclair Township.
Hey, well, guys, we can't wait to see it. And good luck to you with the rest of the production process. And we cannot thank you enough for coming on the show. Thank you guys very much. And yeah, enjoy your morning, guys. And we'll be back here on the Morning Buzz